Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the latest episode of Sustainably Talking Live. Today we're being joined by a father and a son. Harry Turner is joining us from the jungle in Ecuador, where I understand is actually not that warm. Hello, Harry. Welcome to the show.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, good. And so I gather it's a bit chilly today.
Yeah, there's been a lot of rain recently. Usually wet season starts in the Ecuadorian Amazon around April time, but there's been a El Nino, so it kind of was delayed, and now it's just been raining for about 2 days straight. And so it's usually a little warmer than this, but that's okay. I got my hoodie. I'm all good.
I suppose there is a reason why they call it the Rainforest. And Mark, good for you to join us. And I think you're probably in London, are you right now?
I'm in Southend in Essex.
Southend in Essex. Oh, okay. All right. So Southend and Ecuador today. Okay. Well, I'm just going to post some music and then we'll get on with the show. Right, well, welcome everybody. I thought I'd get straight in there and introduce you both. And Harry, I'll introduce you first. So Harry Turner is an English naturalist who has spent over a decade working in the Amazon rainforest. Following the success of his Emmy award-winning documentary Wildcat in 2022, he started his non-profit Emerald Arch. Emerald Arch hopes to protect and conserve as much land as possible in the, oh dear, I've no idea how to pronounce. Thank you very much. Region of Ecuador. With 184 acres currently being protected in one of the most biodiverse places on Earth, he is on a mission to protect even more of these incredible wild places, wildlife, and native population from the destruction that is being caused by local oil companies and the general changes brought about by climate change. Well, thank you. Welcome to the show, Harry. I'll quickly introduce Mark, and then I've got some questions for you.
Absolutely.
So, Mark Turner is Harry's father. He's a risk manager, technologist, and now author, with over 30 years experience of project risk and internal audit management. He's more familiar with the concrete jungle of industry than the rainforest of the Amazon. Although you did go out there, didn't you, to visit your son in the jungle. For the past 8 years, you've been developing risk management software, most recently with the aid of artificial intelligence. So Mark's new book, Vibe Coding, the art of collaboration with AI, expresses the risks and rewards of building software companies and even books with the assistance of AI. Whilst writing the book, he has had to consider the ethical dilemma of energy and water usage, which so keenly affects his son's world. Right, well, more of that in a moment. Mark, I'm going to say goodbye to you for about 10 minutes. I have a quick chat with Harry. And then I'll bring you back on. Okay. Hello, Harry. So hey. I thought it might be a bit of fun if we play an extract from from your documentary on Amazon Prime. So I'm just calling it up on from YouTube here. Let's hope no adverts suddenly appear. Always a bit of a risk when we do these things.
Always.
It's a 3-minute video. I'm not going to run the whole 3 minutes. I just run the first 45 seconds or so. I just wanted to give people a feel for it.
I love you. I'm in this most beautiful place in the world, and I can't be happy.
When I was in Afghanistan, I was medically discharged with PTSD. I felt that life wasn't worth living, and maybe I should just go when no one knows if I'm alive, no one knows if I'm dead. And then I met Sam. That's when my life really took a turn.
This is Keanu, our ocelot rescue. He will be reintroduced into the wild in a year and a half.
I didn't know if it was going to be doable.
Their alternative is living a life in the zoo or dying in a much worse way.
So I won't run anymore, but you can watch it for yourself. And I've watched the full documentary, and it is very, very good, and I will recommend it to anyone. So Harry, can you tell me how did all this start? How did you end up in the Amazon to start with?
Yeah, so in 2012, I was deployed to Afghanistan, and that to me was like a life-changing, a pivotal and life-changing moment. Obviously, being 18 years old and going to war is not necessarily the most healthiest of decisions, but you know, I joined the military and I wanted to. I wanted to just be that person that kind of like followed through with what he was doing and wanted to go to war, and I wanted to just be that person that kind of like followed. I don't know. I guess it was kind of more of a. It was a tricky decision that I made. You know, it wasn't a decision I made. I went out there and then I basically struggled with PTSD. When I was diagnosed and medically discharged, I then went on to think about suicidal thoughts and think about kind of like the best way to lose myself. And I ended up actually kind of just deciding to go to the rainforest to end my life. When I was there, I fell in love with the place, and then I've been here ever since.
Amazing. So how long have you been there?
So I first initially went to the Peruvian Amazon in 2014. I then spent several years there with working with the ocelots, which you just watched in the trailer. And then after that, I traveled a little bit more, trying to figure out where I wanted to land. And I actually came to Ecuador during the pandemic and have been kind of networking here and figuring out kind of the lifestyle here. It's a little bit different to the Peruvian Amazon. And then, yeah, about just over a year ago, a year in April, me and my wife, we bought a parcel of land here. And we have now been working as hard as we possibly can on trying to work with and preserve this beautiful and incredible biodiverse area here in Ecuador.
Amazing. So right now, are you actually in the rainforest at the moment as you speak to us? Or?
Yeah, I'm on our land. I come down here every 2 to 3 months just to make sure everything's going well, to help with scientific research, to speak with local people, make sure that my park ranger is doing what he's meant to be doing, and basically get away from civilization. I've never felt like I fitted into society. I've always felt like this has always been my calling, is to be kind of like more of a wild and nomadic person. But yeah, I spend a lot of time here. I love this place. This morning, the squirrel monkeys were just behind my house here, and it's one of the best investments I've ever made.
Amazing. And I think you've discovered some snakes or something. Is that so?
We've found a lot of really cool species on the land. There's been a few species that have been very, very rarely recorded. We found the 6th and the 7th individual to be documented of a aquatic snake called Helicoptagnani. And for us, that's incredible. It puts our name on the map. It shows that our area that we are protecting here is extremely biodiverse. But yeah, for me personally, I'm a big cat guy and I'm a big snake guy. And I bring a lot of other scientists to the research station here so that they can help with identifying and scientific research on either fish, insects, and we've got a few other people as well that in the future want to come down and help with mushrooms and birds and different plant life as well.
Okay, amazing. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm going to have to confess with you, I'm not what you would call a snake guy, but I do understand the cat bit. So, how on earth do you go about making a documentary in the Amazon jungle about a wild cat? How do you go about doing that? Were you the director of it, or I mean, I know you were the main guy, you were the star of the show, but tell me a little bit about that.
I never filmed anything to make a documentary. I filmed because I genuinely thought that what I was doing was pretty amazing. I had gone to the jungle to end my life. I had fallen in love with the place, and I was a 21-year-old walking barefoot in the rainforest with an ocelot. I filmed because I wanted to show my family. I filmed because if I did end up having children in the future, wanted to show them. And it was honestly one of the things that I just did because it felt right. I've always had a little bit of an eye for like photography and videography. One of like my first ever big Christmas and birthday gifts that I got from my mum and dad was actually a camera. And I was taking photos and taking videos, but it was mainly of like skateboarding and, landscapes and stuff like that. When I was in the jungle, I had this opportunity to record and document some really cool behavior and some really cool kind of situations that I was, a part of. And then I had filmed enough so that when a filmmaker eventually came to the jungle on another mission, he was there to actually photograph anacondas in the same region. He approached me and basically was like, I've heard that you've got some really good footage. Can I see some? So after that, we kind of like went through a few snippets that I had captured, and then from there on, he kind of like helped out with filming some of the other stuff that I wasn't able to film. And we basically came together and made a documentary, which then went on to win an Emmy.
Absolutely incredible. So watching it, there's a couple of moments that stuck out for me. There was one in which your family, including Mark on the show today, came to visit you there in the jungle, and your young brother, you said his friends didn't understand. Why on earth are you going to the jungle for your holiday? Shouldn't you be going to Florida or something like that? And he actually turned around to you and said, "This is officially the coolest day of my life," which I thought was quite a nice moment. It must have been amazing having your family visit you there, but it wasn't easy, was it? The whole experience wasn't a bed of roses as such.
No, and I think that if anybody's kind of isolated in loneliness for a very long time, they're never gonna fare well mentally. You could be on a beach, you could be, in the jungle, you could be wherever, but when you're not with anybody, if you're just by yourself and you're in your own thoughts, and you're also struggling with PTSD, that can also be extremely difficult. When my parents came out and my brother came out, that was a huge morale boost. And for me, them coming out meant a lot to me. And I genuinely really wanted to show them an incredible time, even though I was still reintroducing one of the cats at the time. I barely slept, and I wanted to just show them a part of my life. We went out on night walks. We went out on, boat trips. We just spent a lot of time together, and it was one of the most beautiful parts of the Keanu project. It was hard working with him. It was hard becoming nocturnal and hunting all the time and just trying to do all these things to make sure that he survived, because I wanted to ensure that his survival lasted, because Khan obviously wasn't so lucky. But yeah, I don't know many 12-year-olds that went to the jungle. As you said, and in the documentary, he could have gone to Florida. He could have gone to, Devon or somewhere, but no, he came out to see his older brother, and I think it's a memory that he's going to enjoy for the rest of his life.
I certainly think that would classify as as a cool holiday, and maybe Mark can tell us a little bit about that from his point of view in a few moments. So there was one moment. So I mean, you were sleeping in a tent, weren't you? There. I know that's not an experience that isn't for everyone. I think most of us would feel a little bit nervous about sleeping in a tent in the middle of the jungle. What did you learn about yourself? What did you gain from this experience, do you think?
I learned a lot about myself being in the rainforest. I think that the thing that I did kind of like pinpoint was the fact that it was okay for me to just enjoy being alone in nature. I always felt like when I was with my friends, I needed to go out and I needed to drink and I needed to, make a fool of myself. But I genuinely enjoy being alone. I genuinely enjoy being in the rainforest. I met my wife in the rainforest. And towards the end of the Keanu project, me and her kind of like met up, and it was one of them things where I kind of like saw her and I saw this like beauty. And from there on, we've been inseparable. We bought this land together. It's tricky because she brings out the best of me, and I do everything that I can to like ensure that I am there to support her all the time, but I'm also in the jungle for long periods of time. And so I'm grateful for technology and I'm grateful for other bits and pieces because I'm able to talk to her, I'm able to connect with her and, at least say good morning and good night, even if there isn't much Wi-Fi or electricity for that matter. I learned that I love being alone, but I also need my person.
Okay, fair enough. So there's one moment in the documentary which I thought was quite fun. It was when Keanu. Is Keanu named after the actor, by the way, or is?
I am a big fan of The Matrix, and I'd watched all three of them when he came about, and he needed some help. And because of Khan and his name, I then decided I wanted to stay on the kind of like K train. And
so Khan was your previous attempt to.
That's correct.
With an ocelot. Okay, so there was one moment I think when Keanu was playing around in a stream or something, and there's something that looked like a log. And the next moment, what was it, a caiman or crocodile? Mm-hmm. I don't know what it was. That was quite a dramatic moment, I thought.
He was a big risk taker.
You gave me a heart attack then. But
No, he was a big risk taker. Khan, the first ocelot, he was a lot more of a kind of think before you act type cat, whereas Keanu definitely had a kind of streak about him that reminded me of myself, a bit of a person who took risks, a bit of an adventurous kind of lifestyle. But it was really cool to see in a wild animal, both of them, being ocelots and male ocelots from the same river, how they both had different characters and they both just had different kind of ways of doing things. You think of a wild cat and you think like, oh, okay, this cat's gonna, kill this rodent and do this and, be boisterous. Well, both of them, yes, they had to kill, but they did it in different ways. They loved in different ways. And it was a really beautiful and unique experience for me to see both of them doing what they were supposed to do in the wild, but in different and wonderful ways.
Okay, so tell me about preserving the rainforests. How do we do that? So I understand that you actually employ someone as a gamekeeper who was once a poacher. So how do we preserve the rainforest?
Preservation of the rainforest is about education. We need to show people in the area that, this is an important lifestyle. A lot of the people in South America specifically think about the moment because they have to. They think about the moment that they put food on the table for their family because they don't have money. and they need to figure out a way that they can support their family. So what they do is they usually think in the moment, they kill an animal in the moment, they cut down the rainforest in the moment, because they don't think about future devastation, which is fine. They are put in a situation which is putting them between a rock and a hard place. I think the best way to protect the rainforest is to work with these local people to buy and protect areas, but to also give them the resources to earn money, to learn, to work with local people, and to work with people like ourselves, our nonprofit. When you start giving people opportunities, they start to understand the benefits of the future. When you start to educate people, they start to care for instead of murder. They start to understand instead of destroy. And I think that working here in Ecuador is always going to be a challenge, because you're always going to have bigger companies like oil companies. But deep down, the people here don't want to work for the oil companies. They want to live in harmony with nature. And if we can give them a platform to sit on and to actually earn money in a sustainable environment, then that's the best way to protect this part of the world. Obviously, different parts of the world are going to be different because you have oil, you have selective logging, you have all these different things. But here, it's mainly oil, and oil is destroying not only the animals here, but it's also destroying the communities. And if we can work in a way which protects these communities, we can also work in a way to protect and preserve the rainforest.
Okay, thank you. That's really inspiring stuff, Harry. Please don't go away, will you? I do want to ask you a question right at the end in about 15-20 minutes time. I'm just going to speak to Mark for a little while, and then I'll bring you back on shortly. But thank you very much. That was really interesting and very inspiring stuff. Thank you. Hello, Mark. So now a bit of a jump from Ecuador to Southend, from the land of the rainforest to the land of the longest pier in Britain, I think, if I remember correctly.
That's correct. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I went there as a kid. I seem to recall you have to go. There's a train that takes you down the length of the pier there. So, Mark, so you also were in the military. Just want to just tell me a little bit about your background there?
Absolutely. Much like Harry, I also joined the military when I was 18. But instead of going into the army, I went into the Navy. And I undertook an engineering apprenticeship with the Navy. And on the back of that apprenticeship, I was selected as a submariner. So I went into nuclear submarines. And then I was very much in the mindset of studying still on the back of my apprenticeship. And so the Navy sponsored me to do my degree. And so I did a technology degree, of which back in 98 and 99, I studied artificial intelligence and robotics and mechatronics, as it's more formally known. So I graduated my bachelor's degree in technology in 2001, which was the year that I left the Navy. And I went into industry, and I've been working from 2001 up until 2018. I was working for aerospace companies. So we were building various technological, highly advanced technological equipment for the military and civilian aerospace as well. So it was a fascinating use of my technology degree to bring that to the aerospace industry. And then, and the fact that I was a military person, I was in the Navy for 12 years. I rose to the rank of Chief Petty Officer. And it gave me certain leadership skills, which helped me in my industry, in the industrial sort of part of my world, to accelerate my promotion and my advancement. And I was able to become a risk manager, an internal auditor, and eventually to be qualified as a risk manager. And I was the head of enterprise risk management across the UK. So I had a real wonderful experience learning how to become a risk manager in one of the world's most industrially intense risk areas, aerospace, obviously a regulated industry. So it was a really fascinating and eye-opening experience for me to achieve that. But obviously bringing those sort of technology background and my risk management background together, I think puts me in a very interesting position when it comes to talking about how the AI and the technologies have progressed in recent years.
Okay, so can you tell me a little bit about your book? So what's it called?
Yep.
And if you've got it to hand, please wave it, and then
You have it at hand, and I will wave it. So here's the book. It's called Vibe Coding: The Art of Collaborating with AI.
Okay.
So for those who are unfamiliar with the term vibe coding, it was coined at the beginning of last year, 2025, and it quite rapidly spread through technical circles, and actually became the word of the year in one of the dictionaries. Merriam-Webster's and Collins Dictionary both promoted that as a new word, which essentially meant that people were no longer physically typing in computer code to build applications and programs. They were rather talking to the AI, and the AIs were building the applications for them. And it was something which I had actually been doing since about 2023, when ChatGPT first came onto the general sort of exposure. And right from the early days of having access to ChatGPT, I was able to build some rudimentary computer programs just by talking directly to the AI, just by speaking with a chatbot and working with it to be able to build simple applications, more complex, detailed sort of analytical outputs, presentations, and eventually the book. So all of my experiences for the last 3 years have been leading to the point where I now work very collaboratively with ChatGPT, with Claude, those other types of large language models to achieve certain things which, quite frankly, are beyond my capability and my understanding without the assistance of AI.
It kind of reminds me a little bit about the Garry Kasparov thing. Garry Kasparov, former world chess champion, famously defeated by Big Blue. Was it Big Blue, the name of the computer that defeated him? He always says a computer can beat a human at chess, but computer plus human is where the really interesting stuff happens. So, and I understand you invented a word. So tell me about this word you invented. Well, interloquial. I can tell you what the word is, but I don't have a clue what it means. So
yeah,
tell us
much
more.
like you've just said there, I didn't invent it on my own. I was in search of the word that described what I was doing, because I wasn't prompting. I wasn't just telling the computer what I wanted. I was also responding as well, and I was doing what the computer was telling me to do. So the tables were turned to some degree as to how I'm communicating and that back and forth dialogue and conversation that I was having with the large language model, and they could span for days. And that feeling, that immersive feeling of being able to communicate with something else that's not human, and that between you, the results are more than the sum of the parts that you could have brought to them separately. Because I was bringing ideas of different genres and different aspects. The machine was bringing them together and helping me do my research. And between us, we were working collaboratively. So when I came to write the book, I was searching for the specific word which captured that collaborative meaning, that two-way dialogue. And so, as it turned out, I actually asked Claude if it could help me to research and find an appropriate word that would meet my criteria. And one of the first words it came up with was interloquial. And interloquial comes from the root of inter, which means between, and loci, which means the speaker or to speak. Okay. And so the word interloquial means essentially between those who speak. And those who speak may not necessarily be human, because now that we have the ChatGPTs, Claudes, and the other chatbots, we have now a technology which can speak to us as much as we can speak to them. And so the key message that comes through on my book is that collaborative nature of interlocual skills, which I like to explain it to people in as much as you have interpersonal skills, and interpersonal skills is where one human relates to another human and they find empathy and meaning and warmth and relationship. Well, that's interpersonal, but interloquial is actually a very different skill set, because it's not about warmth, it's not about empathy, it's about being specific, being accurate, and also being able to interpret the results to ensure that they achieve the intentions. And so those skills are quite cold and they're quite sort of robotic in a certain way. And another aspect of the interlocual skill that we as humans need to develop is to not let the robotic approach bleed into our human lives. So I found myself on occasion writing an email to my human development team, and I still work with humans, in very much the same way I'd be writing a prompt into ChatGPT. And I've had to catch myself a few times saying, okay, I can't talk to people the same way that I talk to the AI, because they're not going to respond in the same way that an AI would. So there is actually skill to be had, and I call it mode switching. So I have to switch modes between when I talk to an AI and when I talk to a human.
So mode switching, that's going from a computer to, what are those other things called? Computers and what?
I've got the chat bots, which I talk about.
Human, I think the word human, wasn't it? The other thing's human, I think. Yeah. I remember them. Yes, I speak to them occasionally. Yeah, I must admit, I've been working with Claude on a project that I've been doing recently, and I must say I'm working at it at a level that I don't think I could do with a human. I think I'd be driving a human mad with my questions, to be honest with you. Completely insane. 1 a.m. Hey, what do you think about this? I think if it was a human, if it was my partner, I think that she would strangle me, to be honest. So anyway, so that's that. So I saw a post on LinkedIn the other day. I'm hoping to try and pull it up. Google DeepMind argues that LLMs cannot make real scientific discoveries. And there's the paper here. Now, to me, that's a bit of a so what story. The story would be if LLMs could make real scientific discoveries. Now, there would be a story. To turn around and say, well, they can't, to criticize them because they can't make real discoveries, to me feels like a funny criticism. I mean, there are lots of things we can criticize AI for, and we'll come to that shortly. But to actually criticize it for not being able to do things that humans can do seems a bit strange. But it kind of misses the point to me, which is that surely an LMN or AI more generally is a tool that can help humans make real discoveries. And that, I suppose, is where this interloquial comes in, the whole collaboration with AI. What are your thoughts about that?
No, absolutely. And a big part of the book is talking about how the danger to humans is that we allow our cognitive abilities and our thinking processes to atrophy whilst we sort of offload our research or what have you to these AIs. And asking questions and getting back answers is actually a very bad thing for the human brain to deal with. Okay, the sweet spot, as it were, would be us as humans have challenges, have problems. We utilize the computers and the AIs and the chatbots to help us to research and to actively engage in the discovery and the dialogue. But I mean, and that outcome, the result, is bigger than the sum of the parts, because whilst we've got the problems and whilst we're using our intellect and our cognitive abilities to set the challenges and determine if the answers are actually valid to our experiences, we may not be able to achieve them in the same time frame with the same sort of efficiency and effectiveness that we can do with the support of these tools. And you're right, they are tools. They just happen to be tools that can speak our own language. And it's really the first time in history that we've got something that is a non-human being able to communicate to us as if we were humans. Yeah, and I think that between speakers, as I've mentioned, is fundamentally different from anything that's ever happened in human history before. And if we treat it correctly, if we use it to build our capacity as humans, to develop our cognitive understandings, and not just sit back and let the computers do the work for us and give us the answers, but actually engage with the question in the first instance, then I think, yes, scientific endeavors will continue to move forward. Something I learned back in the 90s when I was studying AI was about goal seeking. And at the moment, the humans are still setting the goals. Once the computers themselves learn to set their own goals, well, then I think that's when things start to change. There's some of the audience may have heard about the AI singularity, which is the point beyond which we can no longer predict what the AIs might do. And to my mind, the AI singularity comes around when AIs start setting their own goals. But we're not at that point yet. And until we are at that point, goal setting is purely within the domain of the humans. How the AIs then achieve them needs to be constrained by the guardrails which the humans place on the AIs. Because you can set a goal. There's a famous thought experiment which was, can a robot make paper clips? And you set the robot going to make paper clips, and it converts the entire world into paper clips because you hadn't set the constraints correctly. Well, the AI didn't have the goal to create paper clips. It just knew that its intention was to create them. And so constraint around the goal setting is very much still within the human domain. But once they reach the point where artificial intelligences, whether they be LLMs, whether they be some sort of fusion between quantum computers and other artificial intelligence models, start to set their own goals, well, then I think that's a point in time which we can't currently see beyond.
Okay. So, I mean, I've heard so many different definitions of singularity, and it is a really interesting concept. I'm guessing this was invented by Ray Kurzweil, was it? Does he come up with the idea?
Well, he's certainly the big proponent of it, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, Asimov's three laws of robotics come to mind here. I don't suppose you happen to know them off the top of your head, do you? I mean,
yeah, a robot cannot harm a human. A robot cannot allow harm to come to itself, and and it's all by their actions or their inactions. And a robot cannot harm another robot. So those are the three laws, with the 0th law, which was developed afterwards, which is a robot cannot harm humanity.
Okay, very good. I'm impressed the way you could just. I always have to look them up. I kind of know them, but I always have to look them up. Okay, and but of course, it seems to me that people need to be taught how to use AI, and for AI not use us. That's the wrong word for description, but it's so easy. It's so easy just to sit back and abdicate responsibility. Oh, AI's done it. Oh, AI, can you write something? Claude, can you write something for me? And it's about, and I think that is a dangerous route to go down. But if it's a case of, can you improve this? Or I've written this, what do you think? And that two-way process, is that the key? Do we need to be taught how to use AI in a way that is as positive as possible?
I strongly think that we should be teaching both children and adults the correct use of the interloquial skills, for want of a better word. Yeah, how do we trust the results that we're getting out? So trust is a big part of the interloquial process. Yeah, there's a classic story that I like to tell people, and that is one that happened to me. I wanted to test my website to see if it would be cyber attacked. So I asked Claude, how would I run a test to see if it doesn't get cyber attacked, a DDoS attack, which is a distributed denial of service attack. It gave me the steps to test my website. What I actually did when I undertook the test that it told me to do is I perpetrated a DDoS attack on my own server and got blacklisted from it. So my server got turned off because I'd failed to interpret the level of trust in the machine's instructions to me.
Right.
Yeah, that is a dangerous scenario. I mean, that's a very benign scenario. I mean, I just DDoS my own server. So at the end of the day, nobody was hurt. If somebody blindly followed the instructions to send some code which happened to be malicious code, shut down the water supply, shut down the electricity supply to a hospital, that's a very much different scenario. People need to be trained how to interpret the results that they're getting from the AIs as much as they need to be trained in how to ask the questions of the AIs in the first place.
Well, this is a question this is something that's come up before. Is much about asking the right question. Is about interpreting it. I think asking the right question is so important. Can we turn to AI and sustainability?
Yeah.
We are drawing quite close to an end now, and I don't want to miss the elephant in the living room here. But we'll come to the elephant in the living room about AI and sustainability in a moment. But let's look at the positive. So how can AI positively support? Struggle with that for a moment. How can AI positively support sustainability?
Okay, well, comes back to what we were talking about earlier. Scientific advancement is made by collaboration with the AI. Okay, we can carry on making scientific advancement, and sustainability is a scientific endeavor, and we could do that without the AI, but it won't be as fast and as efficient if we can do it together. So the collaborative nature of using the technology to help us become more sustainable, I think, should be a goal which we should all endeavor to undertake. The technology itself is still very new. What AI could be doing in 5, 10, 20 years time to help us reduce carbon emissions, maybe reverse carbon emissions, save electricity, save on water, save on other precious resources. Yeah, we need to get over this this hump of it still being a new technology which people are afraid of, and rather we should be, I personally think, making the use of the technology to understand that the world will be better as and when scientific progress can resolve some of the key issues that we face. And the key issues we face at the moment are climate change. They are resource depletion, whether that be natural resources, water supplies, those types of things, and the energy use that we have as well. So there are some key fundamental areas which technology itself contributes to negatively, but I think by the use of that technology, we will ultimately be in a better, more sustainable place as well.
But the big question, of course, is how much water will it require in order for AI to show us how to conserve water?
Yeah.
And similarly to that, how much electricity will we require in order for AI to tell us how to use electricity more efficiently?
And I've been doing some number crunching to answer those questions. In fact, I've put a post out just today on LinkedIn which captures some of those thoughts. And the truth is, when people talk about the consumption of energy and the consumption of water for data centers and AI, they do it as an absolute value. They're saying we're going to use 1 million metric tons of water, for example. What they don't do it is comparative, and they don't compare it to some of the other human endeavors. So there's some really interesting research that compares water usage by agriculture, water use by agriculture is the primary usage of water by human endeavors. Okay, extraction of materials, that is predominantly overruled by construction and mining. Okay, and then finally, energy consumption is significantly done by transportation. So those 3 human endeavors, which we're all familiar with and we all participate in, significantly outweigh the impact that all the data centers in all the world are having. And that's not just AI, but that's data centers that are doing all your social media and all your data storage and all your big data processing. From a carbon emission perspective, they constitute 0.5% of the global carbon emission in 2025. The other 99.5% of carbon emissions were predominantly made up from construction, agriculture, and transportation. So the danger here is we always put these numbers up on a pedestal and say, look at the number of energy we're using, how much water we're using, but we don't compare it to how we're watering our golf courses, Which
Well, I was
actually
about to bring up the question of golf courses. I wonder how it compares with the amount of water golf courses use.
absolutely. So we need to be very careful. There's always lies and there's always statistics, and the statistics can be quite easily manipulated to show that AI and digital technologies in the whole are very bad for the environment, but they're nowhere near as bad as what Harry's talking about, and that is the oil industry doing very dangerous things in the Ecuadorian rainforest. Yeah, the effect climate change is having on the rainforest.
Okay, so I suppose if we could show that golf courses use more water than AI, then that would be called a birdie, wouldn't it? And the other thing that does occur to me, of course, it does depend upon where the water is used. If you're using the water in some spot where water is very, very short and you're struggling to grow food, people are going thirsty, that's not a good idea. But this water that's being used doesn't just disappear from the atmosphere, it still comes back. So if you're using it in somewhere in which there are ample water resources, then I don't know, maybe it's not so serious. But maybe the problem at the moment is like a gold rush at the moment, building AI centers, AI data centers left, right, and center without necessarily having full regard for where they're built and for the bigger picture, as it were. It's not that it per se it's a bad idea, but it is a bad idea if it's not done thoughtfully. So Mark, so we're near the end now, and I'm bringing you back on again in a second, Harry, by the way, in case you're thinking of going to sleep. Mark, as a technologist, what's your view about how AI will affect the planet? I'm going to read that again. I made a pig's ear of that. Mark, as a technologist, what's your view about how AI will affect the planet in the long term?
All right. So personally, I think the planet will be fine with us and without us. In fact, the planet would be better off without humans. I think Harry quite easily agrees with that sentiment.
I'm sure that's true. I'm sure
that. It's going to get by.
They would agree with that as well.
It's going to get by. And the planet Earth is a big place. I mean, we've travelled it. I visited Harry in the rainforest. Rainforest is a big place. AI itself is not going to harm the planet. The decisions that humans make based on AI and that collaborative nature with AI may well do harm, because we may make some mistakes with the information. But the truth is, scientific endeavors and some of the work that Harry's been doing is very dependent on the communication technology we have, the ability to gather data and analyze it and infer outcomes from it. All of these things use our modern tool sets and our modern technologies to push the boundary of science. And that's what Harry's doing in the jungle. And I think that's what I'm trying to do in my own small way with this concept of vibe coding and helping people to build their understanding of what the tools can do for them and how they can improve their world, even if it's just very locally.
Okay, thank you for that. So Harry, do you think animals would be better off without us? Do you think ocelots would be happier if there weren't any? Maybe Keanu wouldn't agree with that, but
I think that the world we've taken a big toll on it. I think that the issue that we have with data centers is the locations of where we're putting them. I think the locations with borders and, breaking up different kind of say, for example, the border of US and Mexico right now. A wall is not just stopping people, right? A wall is stopping the migration of different animals. It's stopping mountain lions from crossing. It's stopping jaguars from crossing. All of these things that humans are doing because they think that they are better is some of the most ridiculous things. AI data centers are being put in areas where, prime habitat is being completely destroyed just so they can build an incredibly huge place just so that they could store information and use up lots and lots of water. As someone who is a conservationist and someone who is a naturalist, I do agree with my dad in this way. Not because he's my dad, because it's about the numbers that we look at. It's about the location of where we put things. And it's about taking things and doing them in a sustainable way. We as humans are always going to try and evolve, and we're always going to try and do things better. But us as humans are also very greedy, and we try and take things, and we try and take advantage of things, and we try and manipulate a lot of things. I think if we all took a step back from our thrones and our like golden castles, and we just spend some time in a hammock in nature, we would realize this place is important. And the newest iPhone definitely isn't kind of like the best thing that's happening to us. If we don't have this rainforest, it doesn't matter what iPhone we have. We're all dead. We need to do things sustainably, and we need to do things in a way which is going to preserve the future. If we can start doing things which aligns and works alongside wildlife, and if we can do things which helps prevent destruction of the rainforest, but also is an educational platform for people that might not necessarily be able to get the stuff that Western civilization is able to get their hands on, then we can work side by side with AI. I don't necessarily use it that much. I don't necessarily agree with it that much, because that's just my view on it. I spend a lot of time in the jungle, but I also think that if people do use AI in a sustainable way, and they can actually do stuff to help people and to help the world, then why shouldn't we go forward with that?
Thank you very much, Harry. Mark, would you like to have the last word? What would I think Harry's just given us a very nice summary.
Absolutely. You alluded to it earlier, and that is, I visited Harry in the jungle in 2019. I took my family down there. It was eye-opening for me to see raw nature. I mean, there was nothing rawer than traveling an hour up a stream to visit where Harry's house was located, in the absolute middle of the jungle. A beautiful, beautiful place. So it made me feel so small and insignificant. And the truth is, the world needs people like Harry to protect those places. And the world needs people like myself and other scientists who are pushing the boundaries of how we can support the on-the-ground scientists and researchers who are doing the work that's necessary. It's not about us and them. It's about working together collaboratively to achieve a better world in the end of the day. And, everything I do with the hope that I'm leaving the world a better place than when I found it.
Okay, well, thank you, Mark. I've learned the shocking revelation that my iPhone is not more important than the rainforest today. I didn't realize that. I'm going to have a stern words with my iPhone later and put it in its place, I think. But of course you're right. Of course you're right. Thank you very much, guys. That was some very inspirational stuff today, I thought. So thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.